Fourth Dwelling, Part 1. As we begin to explore the fourth dwelling, I pause to surrender myself again to the Holy Spirit. I pray that from this point onward, He take over and speak for me so that you can most clearly hear what needs to be said about the remaining chambers in this castle of the soul. Now is when we enter the realm of the supernatural. 14 years ago, when I wrote the book of my life, His Majesty explained these ineffable matters for me, and I'm counting on him to do it again here. Although I think I am a little more enlightened now about these mercies the Beloved grants to some souls, knowing how to describe them is a different thing. If there is any benefit in efforts to express the inexpressible, may His Majesty help me do so now. If not, so be it. Since these dwellings are getting nearer to where the king lives, they are more beautiful. There are things to see and understand here so sublime that unless someone had direct experience with them, words would be useless to convey them, and the mind incapable of grasping them. Someone with a great deal of spiritual background will understand the subtleties perfectly. Although generally a person must have lingered long in the previous dwellings before entering this one, there are no rules about that. The Beloved gives when He wishes, as He wishes, and to whom He wishes. Since these blessings come from Him, of course, injustice is not possible. Poisonous creatures rarely enter these dwellings. When they do, they are usually harmless and may even do the soul some good. In this stage of prayer, it is helpful to have some of them around launching a few battles in the soul. If there were no temptations, the spirit of evil could more easily slip in and deceive the soul about the spiritual delights she is being given by God. If she were not struggling with temptation, the soul would not be gaining merit. She would collapse into a state of habitual absorption, deprived of the opportunity to grow. I don't consider it safe to say, stay in such a state. I don't even think it's possible for the Spirit of the Lord to remain perpetually fixed in the soul during this life of exile. What, then, is the difference between spiritual sweetness and consolations in prayer? It seems to me that we can be consoled through our own meditations and through our supplications to our Beloved. Although God does have a hand in them, as He does, of course, in everything, consolations spring from our own nature. What I mean is that solace arises from the virtuous acts we perform. It feels like we've earned it through our own efforts. It is correct for us to feel consoled when we act righteously. But ponder this, and you will see that we can derive the same kind of satisfaction from various worldly experiences. For instance, if we were to suddenly inherit an unanticipated fortune, if we met someone and fell madly in love when we weren't even looking for love, if we were to succeed in some significant business venture and everyone praised our skill, if we had been told that our husband or brother or daughter was dead, and then they came back to us alive. I have seen people weep for pure joy. I have even done so myself. I believe that the joyful feelings that come to us from God are similar to natural consolations, except that their source is nobler. This is not to suggest that worldly delights are in any way a bad thing. What I'm trying to say is that earthly satisfactions spring from our own nature and in God. Spiritual sweetness begins in God and makes its way into our human nature, where we delight in it far more than we enjoy the worldly kind of gratification. Oh, Jesus, how I long to be able to explain this. I clearly perceive an important distinction between these two states, and yet I do not have the skills to communicate it. May the Beloved do it for me. I just remembered the verse we say at the end of the last psalm at Prime. Cum dilatasti cor meum. For those who know from experience the difference between these things, no further explanation is necessary. For those who don't, more words are required. Natural consolations do not expand the heart. Sometimes they even constrain it a little. The soul may feel profoundly happy when she thinks she is doing something for God, but sometimes she sheds bitter tears, springing from the passions. I don't know that much about these passions of the soul. If I did, maybe I would be more successful in explaining which issue from the sensual part of our nature and which come from a higher place. I have been through this, but I am powerless to explain it. If only I could. Knowledge and learning can be such a great help in everything. When I would experience this state of sweetness and spiritual blessing in prayer, if I began to weep over the passion of Christ, I could not stop until my head was burning. If I wept over my imperfections, the same thing happened. Copious tears and splitting headaches. The Beloved was doing me a big favor in this. Sometimes tears flow from moments like these, and intense longings rise up. They are reinforced by human nature and by our individual personalities. They always come to rest in God. As long as there is humility and the soul understands that she is no more special than anyone else for having such experiences, these feelings are a great blessing. It's not possible to know whether or not they spring from pure love, but if they do, they belong to God alone. It is mostly the souls in the first three dwellings who apprehend feelings of devotion. These are souls who apply the discursive mind to their meditations. This is all they have. It would be good for them to spend some time actively praising God, rejoicing in His goodness and in His being what He is, and desiring His honor and glory. We should do this as much as possible because such acts of love are great awakeners of the will. If the Beloved fills the soul with blessings like these, she should not turn away from them for the sake of completing her prescribed meditation. Remember, if you want to make progress on the path and ascend to the places you have longed for, the important thing is not to think much, but to love much, and so to do whatever best awakens you to love. Maybe we don't know what love is. It wouldn't surprise me one bit to find out that this is true. That's because love is not about our own happiness, but about trying to please God in every way.